Alrighty, everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Game Changer Show. My name is Mike McKay, based in the Jacksonville, Florida market. And each Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, we'll dive deep with guests all over the country who are changing the game in real estate. This is a live show, so please comment with your questions or comments for our guests to answer. This week, our guest is Pat Flynn, president and founder of YellowBird. Pat is also in the Jacksonville/Northeast Florida market and buys over 400 homes a year in Northeast Florida. So, Pat, welcome to the show. Um, how did you get started in real estate?
I'm He talked about, I'm not going to get into the book, but the difference between his rich dad and the poor dad and his poor dad. And he went into why, and he went into how, one dad went into business and the other was big into education and rules and that sort of thing. And the difference between them. And I was just like, wow, it blew my mind. Went out on a ship right after school, with the goal of making money. And you make great money shipping, but you're gone 8, 12 months a year. But I started reading a lot and became addicted to reading books on real estate, books on finance, books on money, books on taxes. I was in that time period where I just couldn't get enough of it. So I bought my first piece of land up in Massachusetts. I graduated college in 2009. So the market crash, right? So it's hard to screw something up when you're buying real estate in 2009, 2010. So I had
Yeah.
bought some houses in Massachusetts, 2010, bought a lakefront piece of land in 2010. Um, and I did well. I did well on them just because, pure dumb luck of the market, and then just kind of kept it rolling, but continued to do real estate on the side. Moved down to Jacksonville, Florida in 2013, just to get out of Massachusetts. Really, it's kind of in a smaller town where there's not a ton of opportunity. The real estate market's not great. Just not a bunch of upside, and I needed to kind of get out on my own and do something different. So 2013, I moved to Jacksonville, started going to Jack's RIA, local networking events, met as many people as I could, and started doing some wholesaling, sending out some mail while I was still on the rig. Bought a couple rentals, and then in 2017, it was time to finally leave shipping, leave offshore, and come jump into it full time. So it's at end of 2016, early 2017.
Got it. So when you decided to jump into it full time, what what was the first step you took?
So I was fortunate enough to have been kind of the bookworm type for the past decade. So I had a really good runway. I knew exactly what my plan was. My plans changed, of course, but I had already been sending a ton of mail and going to all the networking events and talking to wholesalers and talking to hard money lenders. I had been doing that while I was still on the rig. So all I did when I jumped into it full time was do more of it. I did have written goals, and I shared in my Connect my little book that I wrote in when I was off on the rig. My goal in my first year was to wholesale 3 houses and to flip 3 houses. I say my first year. That wasn't my first year in it full time, but like my first year, probably 6 months of that year were on a rig, and 6 months of it were at home. But that was my written goal: was I was going to flip 3 houses and wholesale 3 houses, and that would give me the confidence to really delve in full time. So accomplished that pretty quick, and that was just by networking, going to events, and continuing to do more of what I was doing. So mailing my lists, hammering the phones, and generating leads.
Gotcha. And then at what point um, did you connect with, your current partners and launch YellowBird? Like, how did that become from, hey, I'm going full time to, okay, now we're gonna combine forces and really become a massive player in the Jacksonville market, or maybe the biggest player in the Jacksonville market?
Yeah, so that was. I mean, I'm glad you asked that because it's some good. It's like really good. Some really good takeaways from that from people that are just getting started or really anything in business. What happened was I've always been a lone wolf. I like my solitude. I like being on my own, but discovered that networking and talking to people and leveraging other people's information and helping them out too is really how you get to the next level. So in 2016, when I was in the process of leaving, I was telling everyone I met that I was leaving and trying to jump into this full time. So a friend of mine, his name's Jamie Tahara, he's still a realtor here in Jacksonville. He had a hedge fund account. So American Homes for Rent had started as a hedge fund. They buy single family. They started buying hard again. They took a break for a little bit. In 2016 and 2015, they started buying hard again in Jacksonville. And I was like, hey man, like I'm a realtor. Like I know the game. I know how to run these numbers. Like, why don't you let me run your American Homes account? Like, let me run the account. I can buy for them. Like, I can take all this off your plate. I can do it. And he was like, let me introduce you to like my friend Kyle, who he was doing some stuff with at the time. So I met Kyle, and Kyle had been around much longer than me. He's been in the game in Jacksonville a long time. So he kind of mentored me at first on like value and how to talk to people and negotiations, and I started doing some deals with him. So it wasn't really a partnership or anything. It was just like I would source deals, and everything I sourced, I ran through them, Kyle and his partner, because they had construction handled and they had the hard money I needed to borrow. So there's no point in trying to. I found that I was really good at talking to people, really good at sales, really good at finding deals. I knew I could manage construction, and that was actually my plan because I came from like managing guys on offshore drilling rigs. I know I can manage construction workers. It's just my background. So that was my plan. But I found that the real money was not in doing construction. The real money was when you're the guy finding the deals. So I made that mental shift. Kyle helped me with some negotiation and some ideas for marketing. And with his backing, I was able to just go out and buy. And he would handle construction and stuff in the back. So for all of 2017 and 6 months into 2018, we weren't really partners. I just ran every deal through that, and we became very good friends. So for 18 months, that's all that happened. I was able to do, I think I did 72 deals in 2017. And the only
Wow.
reason I was able to do that is because I was laser focused on finding deals, right? And I'm really good at focusing. And if I need to talk to people and go through my CRM, I'm super organized with that. And I had the freedom to do that. I didn't have to go to Lowe's or Home Depot and run materials to houses or manage contractors or get fucked over by contractors, which happens to everybody. Like, I didn't have to deal with any of that. I could just deal with finding more deals. So,
Mhm.
and it ended up being a great partnership because, and like I said, we didn't partner up for 18 months. So I worked in his office and we did every deal together, but it wasn't like we met at a networking event and it's like, hey, you're new to real estate, you've done real estate a while, like let's become partners. It was we had done hundreds of deals together at that point. We knew each other really well. We had become friends, and that's why it continues to work today. But yeah, that's what I think. That's where it screws a lot of people up in the beginning. Is like I gave up profits on those deals, but I did a ton more of them because of it, and it was a
Mhm.
mutually beneficial relationship. And people want to squeeze every nickel out of a deal. It's like this is a relationship business, and you're
Yeah.
gonna, people make money together, and that's one thing I had to learn. And fortunately, it worked out really well because I was open to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an interesting point that you bring up with this being a relationship business, right? I've always kind of had that mindset of, there's no secrets in the world, and you know, you kind of work with other people to get stuff done, and kind of everyone grows. When I came to Jacksonville, in New York City, that's not the general mindset where I'm from, right? Everyone's a little more cutthroat. You can find people who are like that in the entrepreneur community, but it's not the majority. So, how do you think, the Jacksonville market is kind of notorious for that culture, right? Of working together, doing deals together. I think you guys are a really big part of that, but why do you think that has become the culture here in Jacksonville? And why do you think to newer people that that's the right approach versus being the lone wolf?
Yeah, really interesting question. It's funny because me and you are both from the Northeast, right? So
Yeah.
I remember reading Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was 22 years old and thinking like, I'm gonna keep this book to myself. Like, I don't want anyone else to know about this. Like, I can't believe I had those thoughts. But I like
Yeah.
being completely honest. Like, I honestly had those thoughts at 22
Yeah.
years old. Like, what a weird way to think. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, but for why things are so open in Jacksonville, I don't have a great answer other than I hope that we have been a massive impact on this. I know you had Obi Dorsey on your podcast a while ago too. Obi was a massive influence on me when I was like first getting started in like 2014, 2015. Obi has always been so good to me and so open. And for me to say that it's because of us is not right. It's because of people like Obi and like people in the community, because you're going to have bad apples in every community, right? But
Sure.
if your top players understand business and understand the game and understand that like we can all make money together and make it better experience for the clients all together. Um, it's infectious, right? Because it's not just an ideology; it's actually true. I know
Yeah.
that the more I pour into Connect and the more I people and the more Gabe does Peapod and pours into people for free, like it's so fun to write someone a $12,000 check on a house when they kind of came from nothing and had no idea what they're doing. Like, and now that person is like a foot soldier for you forever. That's going to go out and do their own deals, and maybe they outgrow you one day, or maybe they have 10 years down the road, that person comes back and you guys do some other crazy deal together. Like treating people right and having that abundance mindset will just help everyone live a better life. And I think if the leaders of the community think that way, it kind of filters down. So
Yeah.
I'll take credit for kind of passing the baton that's been given to me, and I'm going to continue to go down that path. But it was like that before me with the guys that were killing it, guys and girls that were killing it when I got here in 2013. So
Yeah.
I don't have the answer for that, Mike, and it's just People down south are different, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe, or maybe it's just Jacksonville, because I know people in other cities down south who don't feel the same way. Uh,
There's some truth to it, though, right? It's not all like it's not. It's not all this fantasy feel good world we live in, right? Like we are all generally each other's competition at the same time, like we
oh
are.
yeah.
But it's balancing that and working deals together and having the abundance mindset that there's is plenty out there for everybody. Um, that really makes the entire thing more fulfilling. Life's too short to be pissed off all the time.
Yeah. No, I think it's totally true. I mean, I think I remember one of my fourth or fifth deals down here. I was at a house and I ended up getting under contract. And when I was walking through, I saw your guys' money page ad walking through, and I sent you a photo of it. And I said, "Hey, do you still want to buy this house?" And you said, "Yeah, I still want to buy the house." And we ended up JVing on that house. So, you know, it's better to be relaxed about it and have a good time, and everyone makes some money.
Yeah, for sure.
So 2017, 2018. I think those were the years you guys were kind of doing deals together, but not like official partners yet. Like,
We had created an
what?
entity. We had created an
Okay,
entity that we did deals together in, but we were not like
right,
business partners, right? Like
yeah,
I did my own thing and like they did their own thing. We didn't talk about the future. It was deal by deal.
yeah.
But I just ran everything through that entity. We funded it and ran everything through it.
So I guess like at what was the inflection point there, and what made you guys decide to be like, hey, let's be full on business partners, and here's our vision for the future.
It was the relationship that was built in the past 18 months and kind of the way we both operate. I'm, military background from Massachusetts. I'm an extremely loyal, transparent person. My two partners now, Kyle and Steve, are the same way. Uh, there's no real egos there, and we're loyal and honest to each other. And I think it was the natural transition after 18 months of natural transition. Plus, there was like an event to where Kyle and Steve had another partner before, also a great guy in Jacksonville, and they had split up for various reasons, just like in the direction he was going and the direction they wanted to take it weren't aligned. So super cordial breakup with him, and it was just like time. It's like that breakup happened, and it was like, you know, are we going to make this official on everything, or are we going to kind of go our separate ways too? And it was it
Hmm.
was it was the natural decision to let's see what we can do, teaming together as three and taking this to the next level.
And what when you guys actually, you and I talk all the time. I don't know the answer to this. When you guys did that in 2018 or whatever year that was your vision to build this huge team that does 400 buys 400 houses a year, and builds a huge portfolio and does all this other stuff, or what was your original vision when you guys started?
Yeah, it was, and I would say the number, like the 400, wasn't the number back then. But I've always had this idea in the back of my head that like we could get to 30 houses a month with the right team, with the right people. So
Yeah,
we probably didn't operationally, we weren't super strong back then. So I probably didn't even communicate that to them, what my plan was. And like the cash
sure.
situation was different back then. So I'm not going to tell you, we sat down, the three of us, and like wrote out the plan. Like, this is what we're going to do. It was more like, all right, let's continue to roll like this, continue to do more and more each month, continue to market more and more. It was a chaotic time. We were spending, Kyle handled the auction and he handled the renovations, and Steve handled the portfolio, and I handled acquisitions, direct to seller acquisitions. So we were spending like 60 grand a month in marketing, and I was answering 100% of the phone calls, going on 100% of the appointments, and like TCing all those. We had a like an admin TC in the office, Carrie. It was awesome, but like I'm dealing with the crazies on the phone, like walking them through these transactions and dealing with the marketing. So I was nonstop. But at that point, I wasn't burnt out yet, but I had no time to
Yeah.
think about the future or think like I had this idea in the back of my mind, but I had no time to hire, no time to think about structure, no time to train any salespeople or even track any marketing. We were blowing and going,
Yeah.
like I said, I wasn't burnt out yet, so I was
Yeah.
still like I was. I was 2 years, 2.5 years in at that point, and just rolling.
Yeah.
Because we were doing well, right? We had no overhead. We had no overhead whatsoever. A few employees in the office, and we were buying a ton of houses, and it was fun. It was exciting
Yeah.
and fun.
And then you said you weren't burnt out yet. So at what point did that happen, and what did you do at that point?
It was probably towards the end of 2019. Towards the end of 2019, we're continuing to spend 70, we ramp up marketing a little each month. So 70 grand a month, and 50 of it was probably postcards, direct response postcards. That's a lot of fucking phone calls.
Yeah.
That is a lot of phone calls. So it got to the point where like it was putting stress on me and like my family because I'm anal retentive. Like if I get a phone call on the weekend, the CRM has to be perfect, the notes have to be perfect, the thing has to look pretty, the person's first name has to be capitalized, there needs to be dashes after the 904. Like I like my data clean,
Yeah.
and it got to the point where I was like in a weird spot.
Yeah.
Like when I was taking anywhere between 20 and 50 phone calls every single day. So it's hard
Oh
to
wow.
make
Okay. Yeah.
progress on anything like when you're taking hundreds of phone calls every single week and you're following up with old stuff and going on appointments. And I was at my breaking point, to the point where I was like, I don't care. I just won't, I don't care. I won't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't care how much money I can make. If that phone rings and one more person tells me to F off, take you off their list, I may drive to their house and kill them.
Yeah. Yep.
It got to the point, it was funny. There was one time, like, obviously, you've taken these phone calls. And this was before I had like my emotion. I was a little less emotionally developed back then,
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
people on the phone where it's like probably my breaking point was someone called and they yelled at they're calling their junk mail. They're yelling at me because I sent them a piece of mail, and they told me that they were going to come to my office address and fight me. And I got so gassed up at the time. It was just like I was over it that day, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Come right now! I'm right here waiting for you." It's like screaming on the phone, and then I hung up and chucked my phone, and I was like, "You know what? I need to like. That's probably a
Yeah.
sign that you need to change something about your life." And
Yep.
he never came and fought me. No one's people have said they were going. No one's come and fought yet, but
How
lot
long
of
did you
friendship.
wait?
I think I waited until like 7 o'clock that night at the office, waiting for this guy to come.
Yeah.
Never came.
Um, so you're at that point, right? I mean, I've been there. I know exactly what you mean when you dread the phone ringing, right? Because you're like, I just want a few minutes off, right, or a day. Just give me a day.
Or like, or
Um,
if you're a deep focus guy, like you're focused on a spreadsheet and you're focused on planning the future, like to answer the phone and break up your flow state for someone to tell you to F off, it's like that can only happen so many times before you're like,
yeah.
I physically can't. I physically
Yep.
can't.
Yeah. So at that point, you get that feeling. What do you do? You obviously didn't quit, right? You obviously didn't get out of the business. So what happened then?
So made a mistake, right? We jumped into, and here's actually what I was going to talk about in my short little podcast I do on Fridays today was my. I know this isn't one size fits all business advice, but we probably had 7 employees at the time. Listen,
Okay.
if you have 7 or less employees, you do not need to hire C level talent. So in my head, I thought I needed a COO to come in and fix everything for me and change the world. And then I could just do what I want to do. And this guy, I can just pay him to do all the shit I don't want to do. Right?
Yep.
Not the case. Like,
Yeah.
if you're a business owner, you have to do the work. I didn't need a COO. I needed an assistant, a high level assistant to come in and help me execute the stuff. But I needed to put in that work to make sure I didn't have to answer the phone all the time anymore, to systemize the process of how these leads came in and help
Mhm.
me turn what I did day to day with all the knowledge in my head about how to talk to people, how to make a deal out of nothing, how to lead intake. I needed someone to help me turn that into a repeatable process, that I could bring people on to help and build a team and help me with. I made the mistake we made the mistake of bringing on a guy, and he's a great guy, and we're still friends to this day. But it was just not the right time. It ended up being like a little bit of a power struggle, and it was just a mistake. And that's a mistake I made twice actually. We hired another COO after that one didn't work out, and it didn't work out
Yep.
twice in a row.
Okay.
And like so, and I heard Don Wenner with DLP. He was talking about hiring the other day, and he's like, "That's a mistake a lot of people make. If you're a founder of a company and you only have 3 or 4 employees, guess what? You do not need a CFO. You do not need a COO. You do not
Yep.
need any of those C-level executive positions just because you don't. It's you being lazy." And that's what I
Mm.
found. I was like, it's me being lazy. I don't want to do the work of this system. I'm a sales guy. I'm good in front of people. I'm good closing deals. I don't feel like doing this work. I'm not good at it. I was overwhelmed. I didn't know where to start. But you do. You have to dig in and start. And you probably do need some help. You need an executive assistant, someone that's good. You need someone like Sarah, who you know, to come in and take those things to the next level for you. But you need to run the show still. And you need to verbalize how it needs to happen, and you need that person that's going to help you execute it. It's a lazy way of thinking to think you can just bring in a COO who's not a real COO anyway, because your company only has 5 people, and think that they're going to just save the day and create it for
Yep.
you. That's just not how it works.
Got it. So you hired 2 COOs, which was a mistake, and then you kind of hired an
Mm-hmm.
assistant who you coached to help build those systems so that you didn't have to do the detail work, or what did that person do?
Yeah, so 2 failures there, and Sarah had been there kind of the whole time, but Sarah was transaction coordinating at the time, and then it got to a point where um, we dug in. We had a weekly check in to where we dug in, and I would kind of paint my vision out there of what I think it should look like, and
Hmm.
Sarah would take it and run with it. So there's a really good book, The Founder and the Force Multiplier, that me and Sarah read together, and so much shit got done because of that book, and because of the weekly meeting pulse we had, and solving problems and having accountability of, like, I was accountable to her, she was accountable to me, and those systems got built week over week. And they're not like foolproof, right? We still have stuff we're adjusting day to day, but that, at least, you have to start somewhere. And that was the formula that really worked well for us.
Gotcha. So you went from there, and then now you guys are at, I think, 40. Is it 40 people who work for you?
So
Um,
it's 35 people in this office.
okay.
There's another 10 in property management, and then like 8 VAs. So it's like
Okay.
54 in total.
54. Okay.
Yep.
Um, and I think where a lot of people get stuck is like a lot of people can build the business that buys 5 houses a month. They can have 4 or 5 people working for them. And then a
Which is
lot
a
of
great
people,
business. Which is
right.
a great
Nothing,
business,
yeah,
right?
it is a great business. Yeah. But for the people who want to get to the next level, they get stuck there, right? They don't know what to do next. How have you guys been able to go from what you were doing then to the level you're at now, where I think last year you guys bought 450 houses. I mean, you've got a portfolio. Like, how does someone graduate beyond the 5 deals a
Um,
month?
I'll start with this. I love talking about scale and taking things to the next level. I think, in my opinion, the home buying sweet spot is exactly what you described. It is
Okay.
a lean operation of someone buying 5 to 10 deals a month and making great money doing it, living a great life. I truly think that's the sweet spot with home buying. Home buying is way too volatile to build an operation off of. It absolutely is. We did that because we had a good 5 year market run of single family. But it's stinging now when you're having this volatile stuff going on in the market. We can't buy confidently anymore. We can
Yeah.
buy no brainer deals that anyone would buy, but I'm having to shift a lot of what we're doing to different models. So if I had to do it all over again, home buying is not the platform that I would say to build a scalable business off. There's a reason that there's no scaled out home buying. There's a reason Open Doors is doing as well or as horrible as it's doing right now. There's a reason
Yeah.
OfferPad is struggling, right? Home buying is a thankless business, and the nuances of certain municipalities and how to deal with permitting and construction and pissed off homeowners, it's very, very difficult and painful to scale, actually. Like, yeah, we did
Yeah.
418 houses last year, and you should be excited to scale. I should be excited to say, this year, guys, we're going to do 550. But to me, that just sounds like more pain. Um,
That's
Even
not
for
good.
my people, like more pain, like more utility turn ons, turn offs, more like
Mm,
it's just absolutely brutal. So I would say make sure there's a reason that no one has built a scaling home. But people have scaled wholesaling businesses, right? People have scaled wholesaling businesses. They've scaled real estate brokerages, but this is so market based, and like I still need to be involved in every deal because it's our own cash that's going out. Like, to trust someone to make those decisions is hard.
yeah.
So starting answering your question, saying like if I had to do it all over again, home buying would not be the business that I scale. I love in scaling businesses. I'm passionate about hiring and systems and growing businesses. I don't. I love the home buying model for buying 5 to 10 a month as an owner and running a small team. I don't like it at the level we're at because people's
Yeah.
livelihoods are based on something I can't control. I can't control the market in Jacksonville. So we're shifting now to be more sustainable, building a sustainable portfolio, doing the retail model, being a sales agency, working with hedge funds to facilitate them and have good revenue sources coming in that you can depend on no matter what the market is.
And is it just that the reason that 5 to 10 house business is good and the buying at scale isn't is because you need to do a certain amount of deals, so you can't. I mean, someone who's buying 5 to 10 can be more selective, or like what? Why do you think it's scale? Like it's. I mean, you got a lot of
You're right. It's
listings, right? You
overhead.
probably it's overhead.
It's
Yeah.
overhead, right? I need to do 15 deals a month to keep the lights on. That guy who's doing 5 to 10 and is paying a couple of VAs and doing some construction, he can shut his doors. The next, like during a market like this, that's the smart thing to do, in my
Yeah.
opinion, is shut your doors for 3 months and figure it out. Finish up your projects, get liquid. Stuff's still selling, but it's hard to
Yeah.
buy right now. And I can't, someone like Open Door, they can't stop buying. They're
Yeah.
screwed if they stop buying, right? Someone like me, I can stop buying, but I need somewhere else I need a revenue somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So it just makes it more complicated when you have this many people and you have like an 8 person sales team that's trained on cash offers, like, and then you start to be more picky on deals. So you got a guy that used to do 10 deals a month and is used to getting paid on 10 deals a month, and now he's doing two. Like, it's a hard adjustment at scale.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot harder to turn a cruise ship than it is to turn a speedboat.
Absolutely.
No.
But it's a great business, and I will always buy houses in Northeast Florida. I think for the rest of time.
Yep.
But next go around, it's not the right thing to scale. So honestly, we'll probably like next go around, we'll probably have more discipline with the way we buy. And I think we did really well in the past 18 months. Like we took advantage of this hedge fund boom. We said no to nothing. We rolled. It was really good. But
Yeah.
next time around, I'll probably be more disciplined with the balance sheet. I'll be like, you know what? Like, I want to keep the balance sheet at 10 million or I want to keep it at 15. That's where I feel comfortable. And we're not going to bring it beyond that. I don't care if it's more opportunity right now. I'm not comfortable there. I'm focused on this revenue model. I'm focused on lending. I'm focused on, uh, the retail side of things. I'm focused on the rental portfolio. And I think discipline is the key.
Yeah. And then, you know, speaking of growing a team, I know, I mean, you've been very successful in, hiring amazing people, in a business that's kind of hard to hire amazing people in
For,
traditionally. People
for
complain all the
sure.
time. Yeah. Like, um, how have you been able to find such great talent?
I look at first off the people we have here. And I talked about this at like Jack's Ria the other night. I truly do care very deeply for anyone that is going to make the commitment to come and work here. They're taking 40 to 60 hours of their week and dedicating it to me, and I expect them to be all in. But in return, like I will give them everything I have too. So step one is actually truly caring about everyone here. And I really do. I really care that everyone that comes in here is happy every day. I care that everyone here is paid well and feel like they're compensated correctly. And I care about their lives outside of here. I care that they have great relationships with their girlfriends and boyfriends, and their wives, and spouses, and their kids, and their parents. Like this is stuff we actively dive into each month, and I work on their lives. I help them work on their lives in a personal sense and here also. So that's step one, I think, is actually caring. Step two is finding great talent is no different than buying great deals in real estate. It is a numbers and lead generation game. You're not going to find great people unless you're looking for them. I can't expect. I would love if there were 50 Sarahs knocking at my door at YellowBird begging to come work for me, but that's just not the case, right? Just like a good deal in real estate, you have to go out and find these people, right? They're not going to come to you. We're working on some methods now, like some of the social media you've commented on. Like part of that is recruiting. Like hopefully
Sure.
we can get some of these people to come to us. But in the beginning, you have to grind and you have to go through a lot of people. So I set up systems to where I treat hiring like lead gen. So I use Craigslist, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter. Just like you Google how to buy a house, and there's going to be 10 methods. There's no secrets. It's just a grind, right? That's the
Yeah.
same with hiring. There's no secrets. It's a grind. Caitlin, who's our HR, phenomenal. She's tracking how many leads we're getting each week, how many interviews we're doing. Caitlin, you need to be doing 10 interviews every single week, right? And she's tracking our numbers, just like on buying houses. How many leads you're generating, how many interviews come from those, and how many hires come from those. So in addition to that, we use two tools, Spark Hire and Culture Index. Culture Index is the same as Predictive Index, DISC profile. It's just a personality profile. They're all good. I like Culture Index because our rep, Mark Boland, he's the man. So if anyone wants to reach out and wants Mark's information, I'm happy to give it. But I can sit there. I never look at resumes ever. Unless I'm hiring for like skilled sort of positions, or we just hired a controller. Obviously, I want her to have some accounting experience, right? So
Sure. Yeah.
I'll look at that resume. But like a lot of what we do is like I like hungry kids fresh out of college, and I don't give
Hmm.
a shit what they did in their past. So I'm looking at their Spark Hire. So I'm looking at a video of them talking to me, and I got their culture index sitting next to it. So I can literally watch this person speak to me, answering the questions that I want them answering on my time, right? Because it's a recording. And I can look
Sure.
at their personality profile right here. So I can tell I'm not hammering through hundreds of resumes. I'm watching 20 of those, and I can get through them. And like a lot of times I know in like 5 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And not only is it, I'm not wasting my time, I'm not wasting that person's time having them come in for an interview when I know in 5 seconds that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So systems to weed through a lot of people. And then in the end, it's just like people that are inexperienced hiring will sit in an interview and be like, I don't know, like I kind of liked him. I think it'll work. I don't know. But that's not the answer, right? It's either a
Yeah.
fuck yes or a no. One or the other. It's binary. And that's the way we hire. And then the last piece is the chug test, right? I'm around these people but more than I am my wife every single day, right? And if I can't drink a beer with these person, aside from you, Mike, if I can't drink a
Sorry,
beer
man.
with this person or a seltzer water, say that. Basically, it's like if I don't want to be around this person, if this person's a freaking weirdo or
Hmm.
any of those things, like it's a no. I don't care
Yeah.
how much of a stud you are. Like if you're a
Yeah.
weirdo and you don't fit it around here, I don't care how much money you can make me. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
be around you.
Yeah.
So that's my hiring rant, but it's worked
Yeah.
really well for us.
And then, once you have people hired, you mentioned you care like a lot about their personal goals. And I know, you and I have talked about these alignment meetings that you hold. Could you kind of talk about what are those, and like what's the cadence of those? What do those looks like, and why do you feel that they're so important?
Alignment meetings are the cornerstone of everything we do here at YellowBird. It keeps us out of the day-to-day whirlwind, and what they are is they're monthly one-on-ones, either 15 to 30 minutes with your manager. Really, so I have probably 8 alignments that I do monthly, but the other managers have more with the other people that are here, and the alignment sheet is pretty intense. There's a lot to it. I'll start with the basic purpose of an alignment sheet is to make sure that what you are doing, what the team member is doing on the day to day basis, and what their goals are fitting in with what their manager wants them to be doing. Seems
Sure.
simple, right? But you would be shocked how many times my poor leadership in the past has been like, I have someone like rolling down a road and it's like, what are you doing? Like I had no like I don't want you to do that at all. That's not the direction we're going, right? And I would get mad at them, but it's really just poor leadership on my part. So they're called alignment meetings because you're aligning work and what am I doing right now? What are my top priorities? Okay, does that align with what you want me to be doing, where we're going? Okay, great. The other part of alignment is on people's personal lives. So they're setting personal goals. And does your personal life and your goals and aspirations as a human align with what's happening here at YellowBird? If your job is
Hmm.
answering the phones now, let's make sure that you either are working on yourself personally and have goals to get better on the phones and earn more money this way and become this rock star ISA, or like you want to become, if you want to become an agent one day and that's just a stepping stone, let's make sure that you're shadowing people like Delaney and Gabe and you're getting lunch with them and you're learning as you're going. So it keeps people engaged. Like our purpose statement is about relentless growth and fulfilling your potential. Like not everyone needs to grow here to like a leader within YellowBird, but people need to be growing in some aspect of their life, whether it's their personal life or their fitness, they're getting in better shape, or they're working on the relationship with their wife. Um, Growth is so important because it keeps people engaged, and honestly that's I think where a lot of human happiness comes from, is watching
Hmm.
progress and growth made over time. So those alignment meetings are weekly check-ins to make sure people are growing in different areas of their life, making sure their personal life is aligned with what's happening here at YellowBird, and make sure the work they're doing is aligned with the higher level vision.
And you have those, you said weekly, you do the 15 to 30 minutes, is how
Monthly.
often you do them? Monthly.
Monthly.
And then you initially create this and you sit down like for like an hour or two initially with them? How do you create this initial document?
So I have the document. I've created it over. I stole the original one, and a lot of the formatting from it was from DLP and Don Wenner. But it doesn't look anything like that anymore. I've changed all sorts of pieces on there from books I've read in the past, and the new team member will get a blank slate. And the first alignment meeting is me walking them through it. And people are a little taken aback sometimes because it's like, tell me your 25-year goals. Tell me what your family is going to look like in 25 years. Tell me what your finances are going to look like in 25 years, right?
Sure,
So
yeah.
it's intense. It's intense stuff that most people don't think about. But I share a lot of the leaders here at YellowBird. Everyone shares theirs with everyone. So all of my deepest annual goals, my commitments, my relationships with my sisters, or issues I've had in the past, like it's all on the table. So I share first, and then that kind of opens people up to start sharing stuff with me. And then, like anything, it gets better with time, right? I've been having these with Sarah for over 2 years now, so our alignments aren't going to be the same as someone that started a month ago, right?
Yep. And so you do that when they come in as a one-on-one. It's not a group thing. It's just you with
It's a
them and you
one-on-one.
create that
Yeah.
sheet. Okay. And then you do
Yep.
15 to 30 minutes every month after
Yep.
that.
Sometimes
Got
it's
it.
more, but yeah, but it's an average.
Cool. I know you have a hard stop in 5 minutes, but I think there's a couple more quick questions.
Sure.
I know you guys sold off. You guys had I think was it 1,200 or a very large house portfolio in Northeast
Yep.
Florida and Jacksonville area, really Jacksonville, and you sold off 700 of those houses earlier this year. A lot of people are curious about what's going in the market. What made you guys decide to sell that portfolio instead of continuing to hold it? And now that you've sold a large portion of it, what is your plan going forward?
Kyle and Steve will be able to speak better about this. They were the majority stakeholders in it. I was a part of it. The reason, in my perspective, that we sold is number one, it was the hottest real estate market, and we didn't know if it was going to go up and down after we sold in October, right? But October was, if you remember, Mike, it was on fire, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely on fire here in Jacksonville. So we sold at a great time. It was the dynamic of uh, the partnership, the relationship between that and what was going on in property management. Nothing that it was bad, but it's kind of like the old adage of if you're not growing, you're dying.
Mm,
And that portfolio was a hodgepodge of stuff bought in 12, 13, 14 at great numbers. But there was none of us had no real motivation to move forward and continue to just like, you have 1,200 houses. Like, does anyone care if we have 1,400? Right? And it's like a hodgepodge of stuff. There's stuff in lower end areas. There's really good stuff in there. There was no real game plan to move forward from it. So it was just like, it just felt like time. You know what I
yeah.
mean? To like almost start with a clean slate and let's move on to the next project. That's my perspective of it. And we ended up selling at a great time. It worked out awesome for everyone. The buyer, Pretium, was a phenomenal buyer. It was high fives all around. It was a great trade on both ends. And it was right. It ended up being right. So now we have 250 houses that were left. We still have them. We've added some this year. The portfolio is at 307 now, but it's much more manageable than 1,200, right? With the 307 that are left, like now we can game plan and be like, okay, what are we going to keep? What are we going to get rid of? What do we want the portfolio to look like 5 years from now? And it's just a great fresh start. It's given us a lot of liquidity. We've been able to pay off a lot of debt, and it's put in us a real good cash situation. So positives all around for the decision to do that.
Um, if someone were, I mean, I know you guys owned a lot of stuff in rougher neighborhoods. Obviously you did very well on it. If someone was entering the business now and trying to get to say 100 rental properties, what would be your advice to them?
So
100 single family, let's say single
the
family.
lower end inventory in the worst areas of town is going to be the better cash flows, right? The higher end houses, the 1980s and newer hedge fund stuff, better assets, more liquid, less cash flow. So I would say, I think the best way to do it is I love planning and really pro formaing it out, right?
Mm,
Figure out how much you're going to borrow, right? figure out how you're going to work with your debt service ratio with the banks and the money you're going to borrow from. Figure out how you're going to figure that, do the rest of the capital stack, which is that last equity piece. If the banks will let you borrow 65%, figure out if that's going to work with the debt service ratio based on the inventory you're buying. So my advice would be proper planning. So don't just buy a hodgepodge of stuff. Don't have some stuff in rougher areas and some higher end stuff. Um, Plan for what you want to do and have some purpose behind it. Plan what your cash flows are going to be and stick to your plan. Would be my what I would say on that.
Gotcha. Um, Alex Carranza says, any larger multifamily goals with those funds that you got from selling?
No, so it's something we've talked about. Multifamily is something we've talked about a lot. But in my opinion, multifamily, me going into multifamily is, yes, I'm in real estate now, but I'm going to the back of the line, right? I'm learning it all over again. Brand new connections, brand new group of people, and I am going to get the deals that are going to get tossed to me initially are the ones that everyone else has picked over already. So if I'm going to go into something else, like a different
Yeah.
space and start in the back of the line, I need to be passionate and excited about it. I can't go and do it just because that multifamily's all the rage right now. So I know I'm good at single family. I know, it's a Jim Collins thing. What can you be the best in the world at? I know that I can be the best in the world at buying single family because I know the numbers. I know how to market. We've spent a ton doing it. So I'm not going to go start in the back of the line in multifamily and start something new when I know I can do this at a high level. I would start in the back of the line if it was something I was extremely passionate about, right? But multifamily isn't going to get that job done for me.
He's not one of those.
No.
Cool. Well, I know you have to jump, so I always have two questions I like to ask at the end. First one's kind of fun, and I'm sure you've had many of these situations. What is the craziest or most uncomfortable situation you have ever experienced with the seller?
So it was in 2017. Oh man, I tell this one, I kind of bring down the mood.
You can pick another one. It's up to you.
I'll tell you this one. I'll tell you this one because this
Okay.
one's pretty funny. So
Okay.
we had a seller. He's a really nice guy, but just needed help getting to the finish line. And We had a contract signed and we busted our ass for this guy. He was getting foreclosed on. We weren't even buying it for that great of a number. We weren't stealing it by any means, but busted our ass to get this closing done. Had Dwayne running title like real quick. It's going to auction like the next day, right? And this guy's like, if this house goes to auction, right, he's going to get evicted from it. And he's living there, and that's his like only spot to live. And I was going to give him 6 months to live in the house. And like I said, we weren't even buying it for a great number. I think we were buying it for like 105, and it was an Arlington house worth like 160. But it was a wreck. It was a
Yeah.
wreck. So not a great deal, but like I was committed to this guy. We had had a lot of conversations. So we had a new guy that started for us recently and had never really been out on sales calls, but he was a notary. So I was bringing. It was so last minute that I was bringing all the documents from Dwayne to this guy's house, and I had my notary with me, who's a new employee of ours. His first time ever doing anything like this.
Oh
So
man.
I called him 10 times. Hey, we're on our way to your house. We have to do this closing. It's going to auction tomorrow. Like, okay, all good, all good. See you when you get here. We get there, bang on the door, nothing, right? Nothing. Out there with the notary, like we had jumped through so many hoops to get this paperwork done. I had my notary there. I'm banging on windows, walking around the house, and I was like, you know what? Like my notary's like, all right, like I guess we should just go. I guess this isn't going to get done. And I said, no, this is getting done today. So I opened the front door and just walked in the house, and the guy's sleeping in his bedroom. I woke him up out of a dead sleep, and he was pissed at first, but we went to the kitchen table and closed the house. All right, the notary
That's amazing.
was mortified.
Yeah. I love that story. That's awesome, man. I mean, otherwise he would have been out the next day. So I mean, it
He would
worked
have
out
been.
for
I
him.
mean, it would
It
have
was
went
in
to
his
auction.
interest.
You know, he would have. It would have sold at auction, and he would have got evicted. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. So one final question. If you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice when you were looking for your first deal, what would you tell yourself, knowing what you know now?
That it's a numbers game. I think me and a lot of people that get started try to, they get something under contract and it's like that's their only focus for the next 2 weeks is trying to sell this deal that's actually a shitty deal and not a deal at
Hmm.
all.
Yeah.
So, my thing would be talk to more people and be more comfortable with failure. And it's okay if the first 20 contracts you sign don't make you any money. The fact that it's a numbers game, keep your head up if you're committed to your numbers and you do what you're supposed to do week over week, which is what we teach in Peapod, your success is inevitable.
Yeah. Awesome advice. Pat, I know you got to jump, but if people want to reach out to you for anything, or if they want to send you deals or anything related to the Jacksonville market, how should they go about doing that?
You can DM me on Instagram or Facebook, or my email is super simple too. It's just pat at yellowbirdre.com, Yellowbird Real Estate. So pat at yellowbirdre.com. Of course, I have no problem giving my cell phone out either, but you know it's kind of hard for someone to jot it down. So if you DM me on Facebook, I'm really easy to find. All my profiles are public, so we can connect there.
Cool. All right, man. Well, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it, and I think everyone got some awesome value today.
Thank you, Mike. I enjoyed it.